Hello, I'm Emma Hammett, the founder and CEO of First Aid for Life and the author of Burns, Falls and Emergency Calls. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to help if you're first on scene at a road traffic accident. It's something that I often get asked about, and it's something that a lot of people are very concerned about. It can be very panicky. The injuries that you might see can range dramatically from very minor to extremely severe. And it's about taking that time to just make sure you are calm and sorted and able to make appropriate decisions. So please don't rush into anything if you are first on scene, because it's very frightening. Your adrenaline will be going, and if you've ever seen any of the emergency professionals, you'll see that they don't rush in to do anything. They will very calmly stand and survey the scene, and all the time they are like us, they're human, and they will be breathing deeply and thinking and looking and prioritising, and they will be assessing exactly what they can see, what they can hear, what they can smell, ensuring that there's no additional danger around, making sure that the traffic has been stopped and that they are not in any danger before they do anything at all. And it's exactly the same for any of us. There were 1,730 people killed on the roads last year. That's a lot. And over 22,000 people were seriously injured in road accidents. And that's road accidents from pedestrians, from cyclists, from motorcyclists, from cars and anything else that can happen on the road. In most EU countries, first aid is necessary for everyone to learn when they do their driving test. Sadly, that is not the case in the UK, which seems absolutely bonkers. And I did set up a campaign and a petition to try and get first aid training as a mandatory part of the driving test. Sadly, it didn't get the momentum that it needs in order to get to Parliament. But I feel very, very strongly that it's an ideal opportunity for everyone that's going on the roads generations ahead to all be trained up in first aid. It's a really, really invaluable skill. Certainly everybody on the road should have an up-to-date or an in-date first aid kit that they have checked, that they know is full of decent quality contents, so that should they need to use it, they have what they need to be able to stop bleeding at the very least, and to keep a casualty warm at the roadside. So that's an absolute minimum. So there should be some sort of a foil blanket or some other blankets within the car, and something to stop bleeding. So I would say that as a bare minimum. Okay, right. Cyclists are particularly vulnerable on the road, as are pedestrians. So for all cyclists, I would suggest that you also, and certainly motorcyclists, think about where you can store your first aid kit, because you should have something to keep you warm at the side of at the roadside, and to stop bleeding should you need to do so. Okay, so your own safety is your priority. Please don't rush out in the road if someone's been hit by a car, because you'll end up getting hit too. It's particularly when you're down at their level, they won't see you, and further injuries can ensue as a result. So most important, make sure that traffic has been stopped, that there are people or something, maybe your car parked, in order to alert people that there is an accident ahead and that there is a hazard. So that will save further accidents. So your hazard lights are really important, and make sure if you can possibly have something in the car that is luminous that you can put on so that you are totally visible. If other people are around, get them to help manage traffic, because that will save lives. And also get them to phone the emergency services and get them to tell you that that is what they have done. The emergency services will be asking them how many vehicles are involved, how many casualties are there, what is the state of the casualties, are they breathing or not, and all that information, and they will need to relay that to the emergency services so that the emergency services can send out appropriate resources to come and help at the scene of the accident. Okay, so that's your own safety that is important. If you haven't got anyone else to phone, then you will have to phone yourself to alert the emergency services. And your priority is anybody that is quiet and potentially not breathing or unconscious and breathing. So whichever, your priority is whoever is quiet. So you want to get in straight away to work out whether they are not breathing or whether they are not breathing. So anybody that's making a lot of noise, you know for certain that they are breathing. So they're not your priority, unless they're the most seriously injured of the road traffic accident that you're dealing with. Okay, so first of all, you go and do a recce of everything. You ensure that you know all the different people that have been involved in the accident, that there is nobody that, you know, a child left in the rear seat of a car who someone potentially thinks is sleeping. You need to check, because it's unlikely that a child has remained asleep in a serious car accident. So please check, because they may not be sleeping, they may be unconscious. And if they're unconscious and they're flopping forward, then the airway will be shutting, and that could be fatal. So please make sure that you are checking everybody that has been involved in that accident. Make sure that they are removed from the vehicles if it is safe to do so, and if you do not think that they've had a serious spinal injury. So if they're able to get themselves out, they should get themselves out and get them to a safe place. If you suspect somebody has sustained a spinal injury or something, which is possible in a car accident, and they are unable to get themselves out, or they are concerned that something doesn't feel right, providing they're not in major danger where they are, you would leave them where they are. So if they are conscious and they're worried that they have seriously injured themselves, then you would keep them exactly where they are and make sure that the position the car is and everything, or wherever they are, if they've been hit by a car, that they are safe and will not sustain any further injury. So your priority is making sure that you're preserving life, you're preventing anything getting worse, and you're getting the emergency services on the way quickly. If somebody is unconscious in the car and you're sure that they're breathing, then make sure they're in a position that their airway will be open, so that they're leaning forward, they will be draining, and that their airway will remain open. So do not rush to move anyone. And if they're unconscious and not breathing, then you'll have to consider doing CPR, but doing CPR in a car is not easy. So you would contact the emergency services and get their advice as to the best way to do that, because trying to get somebody who is seriously injured out of a car could exacerbate any injuries they've got and could hurt you as well. So it depends how much help you've got, what the situation is, as to whether or not that is the right thing for you to do. Okay, so you've prioritized, you've established what's going on. Your priorities are anyone that is quiet, and you are checking quickly if they are breathing or if they're not breathing. If they're breathing, they need to be in a position where the airway will remain open. That could be leaning forward, that could be to one side, and you would do your very best not to twist them in any way whatsoever. And if they are collapsed in a position where their airway is open, you would keep checking that they're breathing with the back of your hand under their nose and mouth, and keep them still, support their head and neck without supporting their ear, without covering their ears, and keep talking to them calmly and get the emergency services on the way quickly. If they're unconscious and not breathing, you would be considering CPR quickly if it is possible for you to do that. And as I say, you may need to get additional help and support and advice from the emergency services to be able to do that safely and properly. Okay, so unresponsive and breathing, we've covered unresponsive and not breathing. Bleeding is a priority, so if they can, get them to stop any bleeding themselves. If not, you will need to get involved and help to stop the bleeding. If you can wear gloves, that is the safest way to protect yourself. If not, you put your hand in a plastic bag or something in order to stop getting covered in their blood. Your hands, so long as they haven't got any major blemishes and things on them, are pretty good protection against most germs and bacteria. However, gloves are always the best idea, and all first aid kits should have gloves in, and you should be putting them on. Okay, if you have been helping at an accident, you need to wash your hands very carefully with soap and water as soon as you're able to do so, after the accident. Okay, take a good note of wreckage, and just take note of any possible injuries that you might have missed as a result of the way things have bent and stuff. And also be aware that this could be a potential crime scene, or a scene where the police will need to investigate. So try not to move any vehicles unless it's absolutely essential to do so for the safety of the people you're looking after, or to release someone who's been run over or something. But do take note, maybe take photographs, because anything that you are moving is potentially interfering with evidence that the police may need in order to establish the cause of the accident and investigate further as to what's been happening. Bodies are softer than metalwork in a car, so it can, looking at the metalwork and where it's bent and what have you, could lead you to suspect that maybe the person has got internal injuries or something like that. So do take note. There may not be anything that you can do at the moment, but you can communicate that to the emergency services when they arrive if the casualty has since got out of the car. And the reason they would be getting out of the car is if they would be in any further danger if they remain within it. So if that car is about to catch fire or things like that. Alongside that as well, please turn off the ignition. So turn off the ignition when you get to the car accident. That is a very sensible thing to do, and make sure that the brakes are on properly. So put on the handbrake so that it's not going to move. Okay, anyone trapped in a vehicle should be monitored very carefully, and the emergency services should be informed. So do let them know that there are people that are trapped, because they will have to notify the firefighters in order to bring cutting gear and make sure that they've got all the appropriate resources. And take a note of the time at when the accident, precisely when the accident happened, because if that person is trapped, they need to make a very serious decision as to whether or not they can release them and how they should release them, in order to ensure that toxins from being trapped aren't going to cause them to go into cardiac arrest or because of toxic shock. So it's really important for them to know how long that person has been trapped. Obviously don't allow anyone to smoke near the scene of an accident because of fire risk, and don't give anyone anything to eat or drink because they may well need an anaesthetic, and it's much safer to give an anaesthetic on an empty stomach. If a motorcyclist is involved, please don't remove their helmet unless you need to in order to gain access to their airway. Most ways you're able to lift up and open a visor in order to establish whether or not they're breathing, and most cases you are able to get in to see whether or not they're breathing, even if it's just feeling your hand on the back of their breath on the back of your hand. If you do need to do CPR and you need to do the breaths, and you feel that's the only way, then you may need to remove the helmet, but it might be that in that particular situation that compression-only CPR is the best option for them. Again, take advice from the emergency services and tell them what you're intending to do. So you can put them on speakerphone and they can talk you through and advise you based on the individual situation and what you are trying to do in order to help them. So they will tell you the best way. So if your casualty has been hit by a car and they're lying on their back and they are unconscious and they are breathing, you need to be very, very careful that you are monitoring their breathing and you are able to establish if they start to obstruct. they are likely to obstruct because their tongue is likely to fall to the back of their throat and the contents of their stomach are likely to trickle up. If you are trained to be able to recognise as soon as the breathing becomes obstructed and roll them into the recovery position with other people to support you if possible, to log roll them in to the recovery position, then please do so. If you are not sure and not confident that you would be able to recognise if they were obstructing, then you would be better to get some other people to help you to roll them into the recovery position now, so that at least they will remain breathing and keep checking that they're breathing. The important thing with a spinal injury is that you're not letting them twist. It's that twisting movement where the major serious damage can take place. If they are conscious and lying in the road and you're worried about spinal injury, you need to support their head and neck. Don't cover their ears, so just have your fingers splayed so they can hear you, and keep them as still as possible and as calm as possible. Insulate them from the ground with a blanket, or a foil blanket's great for that sort of thing, or a coat, without moving them too much, and keep them as warm and dry as you possibly can, as calm as you can, and get the emergency services on the way. Make absolutely sure that their safety is your priority. If you were in a place where there was no way, it was just you and them, and there was no way to be able to stop the traffic and be sure that it was stopped, then that is the one situation where you would need to move them, or if the car was about to catch fire or something. But most times you're able to remove the potential danger away from the casualty. I really hope that's been useful. There is a comprehensive article about how to help following a road traffic accident on our blog, and there's also a short video that actually has these pointers to just enable you and remind you. And next year I hope to be publishing my book on roadside first aid as well, which because there doesn't seem to be one. So I really hope that's been useful. That's Emma Hammett from First Aid for Life and onlinefirstaid.com.